Hello, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, also representing our sister company, G&A Warburtons in New Zealand, where once again we're going into a jeweller's workshop somewhere in Australasia. And this week we're heading right across the continent to the sunny Geraldton and the even sunnier Layton. Hi, Penny.
Hi everybody. Nice to be back. And it is
Great.
Sunny here today. It's a gorgeous day. No wind, beautiful clear blue skies. Really lovely. Sorry for anyone that's over east and you're in the cold weather.
Yeah, rub it in while you can, Penny.
Yeah, I will.
Indeed. And great to have you back on board. And today we're doing a demonstration with a bit of a difference. We've called it Treasured Tools, and you're going to take us on a little journey through your workshop and just share some of your treasured tools with us.
Yeah, I thought that'd be just something a little bit different rather than doing a demo as such. Just talk about some of the tools that we use while making jewelry, well, what I use making jewelry. And bear in mind that I don't always use the tool the way it should be used. So I sometimes stray outside of the rules. So I may also not use the right name for the tool either. But anyway, they always get the job done for me. So I just thought I would try and show you some tools that I use. And I'm trying to think outside the box. I'm not going to go, a file, a torch, a saw. These are all things that we know that we use on a day-to-day basis in our jewellery making. So
well, when it goes down to it, Penny, just before you go on, when it goes down to it, actually all tools are treasured in a way because they all have a job and a function, don't they? And without that function, that tool, you can't do your job. So every tool is treasured.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure some are treasured a little more than others. So let's see where you're going to head us in today. Where are we going to start?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So this might seem a little just actually good talking about how some tools are treasured more than others. I have one hammer, which is like my absolute favorite. It's so precious to me. It doesn't live on my pegboard. Opposite my bench, I have a pegboard on the wall that you can't see at the moment, but it's got all my hammers and my saws and scissors and a whole bunch of other things hanging on there. But the hammer that I love so much is treasured so much it doesn't live with the other hammers. It has its own special drawer. I keep it away from everybody else. It's all very safely packed away. So that's this little hammer here, and it's a Fretz hammer. And look, like I said, I'm really bad at knowing the real names of tools. It's a chasing hammer of some sorts. It's got a really lovely flat surface here and then a little dome on the other end. The weight is fantastic. It's got a really great handle. I love the weight distribution in this particular hammer. And then the others do have bulbous handles like this as well, but this for me is just feels perfect. It feels lovely in my hand. I use it almost every day, but it always goes back in the drawer. It never goes near the other hammers.
Okay.
So I don't know if other hammers are jealous or not. They could potentially be. And the purpose that I use this hammer for is really just for texturizing, putting that lovely hammered effect into the metal. I can, because of the weight in the handle, the shape of the handle and everything, I can control much easier how hard I hit the metal, what kind of dent I want to leave in the metal. So any of that, I haven't actually got anything out. Anything that has that hammered, beautiful, textured look to it that's the tool that I use for that look on the metal, textured look.
So and how long have you had that hammer?
I would say I've probably, it's lovely and smooth. It's a bit grotty on the end. I've probably had this hammer. It was a really big dollar purchase for me, so that it took a long time for me to get to the point where I could afford the hammer, and I've probably had it for 15 years, I reckon.
Okay.
But I love it. So I'm going to put it back in the drawer because that's where it lives and it doesn't go anywhere else but in the drawer. And now I'm going to move on to another hammer that I really love and treasure as well. It's a bit bigger and a bit got a bit more behind it. And this one has, again, it's another form of chasing, I'm sure. It has like a rounded end on it, and it's more of a rectangular shape. And on the other end, it has a flat edge as well, that is, you know, nice and smooth, no marks on it, anything. So this one, I thought maybe I might show you what I do with this one. So this one, I say, is a lot heavier than the other one. So it's more of a chasing and forging hammer. I do love forging metal. I love pushing the metal around and asking it to do things go against what it should do. So there's a couple of pieces of jewelry that I make that I love making. I don't know that everyone around me likes me making it because I get really noisy with it, but the links, and I'm not sure if you're able to catch this, is a little brass link that I've made, and I put them all together to make bracelets and necklaces pieces. The other tool that I'm going to use, I'm sure everybody's familiar with just your standard mandrel that we use for making rings. It's got lots of numbers and letters down the side, helps you choose what size to make your ring, how to, you know, and shape your ring. But mandrels come in lots of other different shapes and sizes. You can get them square, you can get them oval, you can get much tinier round ones if you're making bezels. But the other favorite tool that goes predominantly with this hammer most of its life is my oval mandrel. So it's a tapered oval shape. So you could use it also if you were making bezels for an oval shaped stone. But what I've just quickly knocked up is the first part of this little link that I make, and I thought I might just quickly show you how I use the hammer and the mandrel to shape that piece. So I use square wire because another thing that I really love is square wire, and then changing the shape of it. And I've just quickly cut the length that I need, and I've soldered that together. It's, as you can see, it's not a very good shape. It's just being joined. It's certainly not the right shape. So using the oval mandrel, I'm going to hammer that into shape. So I've popped it onto the on the mandrel. Then using my rawhide hammer, another favorite tool, I'm just going to quickly, as I hammer it, I'm forcing it down the mandrel. Quickly shape that up. I might take it off, have a bit of a look at it. It's not quite the shape that I want. Turn it around. I like to look down the mandrel as well so that I can see if everything is evenly touching the mandrel. So that's looking pretty good. I quite like that shape now. That's another tool that lives in the drawer with the hammer. It doesn't go with any
all right, tools. They're buddies, eh?
Yeah. So now I've made that into a much better shape, little oval. And then I'm going to grab my steel block, and hopefully this is not too noisy or knocks my camera around too much. But the hammer that I was talking about, I'm going to use it to forge out the ends, taper the ends of that little oval that I've just made. So I'm holding down my end. Do one end, do the other. I'm just asking the metal to move towards me, change the shape of that oval. I flipped it over. Flipped it over and did both sides. I'm going to flip it back, and then I'm actually purposely going to put some tool marks into the middle because I really love leaving my tool marks in the middle. So just randomly give it a bit of a bash around so that I've left some tool marks. And so now I've taken that square wire and tapered out the ends and turned that into just a little link. I would go ahead then and file the join, clean that all up there, solder any solder that I might have on it, using my flex shaft and some sandpaper, clean it all up and make quite a lot of those, and then join them all together with jump rings. But that's what I mostly use this hammer for, but it is definitely another favourite hammer that I love using a lot.
Do you give your tools nicknames at all, Penny?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you give your tools nicknames?
You know, I don't, and that's really strange because I do give everything else a name. I've named my car. I name lots of other things, but strangely enough, and I was just talking to some of the ladies at the gym before I came in to do the live, and because they get really excited when I do these lives, and they were asking me about that, and they said, oh, I bet you've got all these kooky names for your tools. And I was like, I feel really bad. I've never actually named any of my tools.
Oh, we'll have to change that today.
I know. Very out of character for me.
Now, Penny, just before we move on, I'd just like to say hi to Yasmin, who said g'day, and there's a few other viewers there. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, that'd be wonderful. And
hi,
please
everyone.
feel
hi,
free.
Yasmin. Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, please feel free to ask any questions or make any comments along the way.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yeah. All right, so that's just a couple of tools, like a couple of hammers, and like I said, they're my favourite hammers and a little favourite mandrel. So while I'm still at the bench, I might move on to another tool before I move off to my second bench. This is a tool that I wish I used more, wish I understood more, but and so I'm always constantly playing with it and trying to better my skill using it. And I know that there's loads of other people that do love this tool and use it on a daily basis. And it's a little mitre jig, so it kind of looks like a little bit of a robot. And these little pieces at the top twirl in and out, and if you open it up, you can move the mitre jig, open it up, and you can put wire or sheet into the jig. So what I thought I might do today is show you how if you wanted to make a box, make something that has a great right angle, this is the tool to do that with. So I've just cut some copper, and I'm just going to quickly show you what to do with the copper. So I've just done some little rectangles. So the mitre jig, there's two sections to it. The top part is, it's really hard to show you on camera, but the top part is at an angle, and there's little positions all the way along that you can either put square wire in or sheet. There's a little, what can you call it? Lug, I guess, little piece of metal that you can wedge your metal right up to it so that you're going to get everything nice and square. The next level down is just flat, so that if you wanted to file the end of a piece of metal really flush, then you could use this tool to do that. There's loads of other things that this tool can do. I'm just not wise enough to use it in that manner. But I do like it to get my, if I'm making a right angle, if I'm making a box, if I'm making a frame to go around something, then this is the perfect piece of equipment to do that. So with my little piece of copper, just feed it into the mitre jig, and I'm going to go that way. That little lug, the little lever, I'm not quite sure what to call it, ledge of metal. I'm going to wedge the metal right up against it. I'm just keeping a little piece sticking out, winding down the lugs nice and tight so nothing can come apart. And you can see that the copper is out at an angle like that, and there's just a little piece on the other side right there. Then just using a file, and I've seen people put this into a vise that might be easier to hold. You can stand it up in a vise. I'm just going to use my bench. That's the way I usually do it. I'm going to stick that out there, and I'm going to file the piece of metal that's sticking out flush back to the mitre jig. You can run your finger across. I can still feel quite a lot of metal sticking out. Keep filing until that you can't feel any metal sticking above the mitre jig, that it's completely flush against that steel. A little bit just there. And while I'm thinking about the files, I learned something only just a little while ago, and I don't know if this might bring some chatter up. I don't know if I'm, again, doing the right thing or not, but kept thinking to myself, especially my needle files, I was like, I seem to be wearing them out really quickly, and I'm always trying to think of ways to be not so wasteful. And so I thought there must be a way. I've used steel brushes to clean the metal out that clogs up in your files. But they were getting really blunt, and I seemed to be going through them really quickly. And I thought there must be some other way. So Google did help me. I did a little bit of research, and over the Christmas period and that weird period between Christmas and January, I don't do a lot of jewelry making, but I do go from one end of my workshop to the other and take everything off, wipe it all, clean it all, get everything ready for the new year. So I spent some time with all my files. I took a lot of the handles off my files that I use all the time, and just with white vinegar, and you can put your files into the white vinegar and it will help to resharpen, I guess, if that's the right way, to your files. So I just wondered if that was not a tip that I could give other people as well. Once you take it out of the vinegar, you do need to clean it all off, and I just use baby oil. I just put a little bit of baby oil back onto the file to keep it really, so no rust or anything can get on it. And I use a paper towel to wipe a lot of the vinegar. You can rinse it off, but you must then use your oils of some sort to put back over it. It smells nice and it makes them nice and shiny again.
Great tip.
So I filed that little piece of metal, copper that I had just down level flush to the mitre, and now what it's done for me is created, it's going to be really hard to see on the camera, but the perfect angle. It's just like super accurate. I've done another one earlier, so I've done two, so that then when I hold those two up together, they create that perfect flush corner. And then when you go to solder those, you lay those down on your brick, and you would just put a little piece of solder there and let it run straight through, and you've soldered your perfect right angle. So and like I was saying, with that tool you can use the bottom half in the same way that I was just filing that, pop it through and tighten it all up, file it flush to the mitre jig, and again you'll have that perfect flush end for any kind of soldering that you might need. If you're making a ring and you bring those ends around, and then they will be perfectly flush. Like you can put, like I was saying, you can put your square metal in there, you can put round metal in there, loads and loads and things that you can do with that tool. So there's lots and lots of versions of this tool out there as well, but it's a really handy little one to have kicking around on your bench. Yeah,
great one. Thank you for that.
Right, so I'll do another one here, I think. This one here is just, I'm sure people are familiar with it, but I'll go through it at any rate. It's to cut your tubing. So it's really difficult to saw tubing and keep both ends flush, and a lot of the times we need those ends flush. Maybe you're making rivets, or maybe it's for tube setting, or I use a lot of tube on the back of my necklaces for the bail, and I want it to be really nice and neat and the ends to be as straight and flush as I can. So this little tool has a little piece at the end here that the saw goes through, and this square piece at the end, we just turn this here to move it in or out to make the length of the tube that you want to cut. So you can use your ruler to measure from the piece where the saw goes in to the edge to work out what length that you want to cut it. So if I just quickly, if I wind that end bit out, I want about 8, just a little over half a centimetre, 0.8 mils. Tighten that back up. So now I've got the little gap. It's all nice and flush. This little handle, this little lever holds the tubing down. I just put the tube in there, pop that up on top. So now the tube is secure in there. I'm going to hold on to that with my thumb. Don't want to push too hard because you don't want to change the shape or damage the tube at all. Just going to reach over the top, grab my saw. And then I'd always put some wax, some sort of lubrication on the saw blade, and the saw blade goes into the little slit that's there, and then by just simply sawing, I just use my bench. Wedge that up in there. I've got my thumb on the little lever to hold my tubing in place. Saw blade goes into that little slit. And saw straight through the tubing. I usually try to slow down at the end so I don't lose that little piece on the floor.
Good suggestion.
And then I've cut my tiny little piece of tube, and both ends will be nice and flush, neat. And it just makes it a really easy way to cut tubing.
Well, you
create
a jig for yourself that you can just replicate that over and over again, can't you?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so maybe shall we move over to the other bench?
Sure.
And I've got a riveting. I really love using rivets and eyelets in my work. And of course we can make those, and we can make them from scratch using tubing, using wire, and there is loads of other little gadgets to help you do make rivets and eyelets. But my favourite gadget, and I should also mention that these 3 drawers that I have at the end of my bench, I do have a label on there that says gadgets. So it's full of them. And that's where my riveting and eyelet gadget lives. So I'm going to move over to the other bench so that I can show you that.
I'll beat you there.
Oh, got it. All right. Not that you can see me very much. So this little gadget, riveting, it's a riveting system. That's all backwards, so that's not very helpful. But so the little jig looks like this. One side is for drilling the hole or piercing the hole through the metal, and the other side is for making either the eyelet or the rivet. Now these you buy prefabricated eyelets and rivets for this little gadget, and they come in lots of different lengths. It really depends on the thickness of the metal as to what length eyelet or rivet you need. And it also, you can also buy, so if you're working on something that was much bigger than you needed something that was longer, a longer piece in this section here, that you can get longer sections to go in there as well.
Okay.
So we pop this into the vise, and you're going to make sure that it's done it fairly tight because you don't want this moving around on you. Again, I've just got a little piece of copper that I'm just going to, it's just a piece of scrap copper that I'm just going to use as a demonstration for you. So on your piece, you would just mark where you want to make the little holes. So I'm just going to pop it into here. You just turn it down, and you're a bit restricted with what size rivets and eyelets that you can make using this tool, but I do use the tool a lot. I use it in bangles. I have pushed its limits a little bit. You are also restricted by the thickness of the metal that you can use, but yeah, I do, like I say, I do use it a lot. So now that's pierced a hole through the metal for me, a perfect little hole. And I'm just going to use one of the, I've got it set up at the moment to make a rivet. And I'm just got, yeah, they're tiny, they're wee, but so this is like a mixed bag of eyelets, and you can see that all in different lengths. So again, it just depends on the length of metal that you're going to use as to what rivet or eyelet you need to choose. And I just pop the little rivet into the hole. So there's a little piece sticking out, and that's the top part. Now at the other end of the little jig, there's like a little cup that's going to make my rivets have a really neat little cap or head on it, and I place that little prefabricated rivet into so it's resting on that little lug, and then I'm just winding the tool down and it just flares out that bottom end. You don't want to over tighten, just so that it's enough, and it's created a perfect little eyelet. That's the back of it. That does just protrude a little bit, so you've just got to take that into account. But that's made a really neat, perfect little eyelet there. So I sort of rivet there. The eyelets, I'll just drill another little hole, and I'll show you that as well. Yep. That down. So I've joined, metals using this tool. As long as you don't go too thick with the metal that you use, you'll be all good. Now, I'll show you also how to change. So that was to make this end I had set up to make the rivet. So now I'm going to do an eyelet. It's really easy to change over, just using the Allen key that comes with the kit. Undo the little nut that's holding in the piece to make the rivet. So I can show you that now. That's how we did and you need to take that out. Pop in, now this one it's got like a little, almost like a teat, I guess, on the end of that. And put that in the top. And the other bit that goes in the bottom has the other little teat in that. Use the Allen key and the lug nut to tighten that up in place. Fiddly. Well, it's the pressure of everybody watching.
I know. We should cross to a commercial break or something, Penny.
Yeah, I know. I've only done it 1,000 times in my life. That's okay. Here we go. All right, she's away. Now, the little... yeah. So just like the other little bag of goodies I showed you, these are all eyelets, and the same thing. They will come in prefabricated different lengths. And grab one of those, put it into the hole that I just made. So the eyelet is there, it's sticking out the back.
Yep.
Now I lay that eyelet over that little teat that's sort of in the bottom piece, turn this down, rise up. Until it's just firm, you don't want to overdo it. And now I've got that one there is a perfect little eyelet. You can see that you can see through. So sometimes I'll use this as my a decorative way for a veil, so I can put a jump ring through that to hang the necklace from. And it just sort of, it's a little neater than maybe just a drilled hole.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well done.
Yeah, so that's the rivet and eyelet jig. I do really like this tool a lot as well, and do use it a lot too. So the other thing that I'm going to do, another tool that I have here on this bench, I'm just going to try and move my iPad so that you can see it. Just there. It's not a very good angle, but it's bolted to my bench, so I couldn't shift it, and it needs to be bolted to the bench so that we don't, so that you can use it correctly. So this is I guess you could call it a corrugating mill. It's a bit like a rolling mill, but its sole purpose in life is to corrugate metal. And so I've got a couple of examples, and you can really control the corrugation, how wavy you want the metal. So we're going to get this kind of look in the metal. So that was just a little piece of brass, that's a little piece of copper. The corrugation's not as tight on that one, and even this one here, not nearly as tight as the other two that I just showed you. Super easy to use. It's just the same sort of principle as a rolling mill. I've put some little pieces, painted some liquid paper on my little dials so that I know that they're both even, so that the mill, the two corrugation canisters are even, so that they're not uneven, one higher than the other. So you want to make sure that your metals are annealed while using this tool. And yeah, again, it's a bit of experimentation. So I use copper a lot of the time when I'm experimenting, or brass, before I go whacking through my silver, or I have used it to corrugate gold as well. So it's pretty simple to use. We just, I've already experimented earlier today so that I wasn't faffing around with the handles and everything, but it's just a matter of turning them both at the same distance till you get the look that you want. And we just hold the metal in, it has a little handle, you just turn the handle and it corrugates your metal.
There you go.
Yeah, I really love using this tool as well. Because it just, you know, this is just another form or texture or shape that we can create in the metal. So if I do the copy, you can see it's super easy to use. It's not rocket science, but it's a fun thing to do. So yeah, really important to make sure that that metal is annealed before you go try and put it through. So they're the two tools that I have at this bench. So I'm going to go back to my other bench. I've just got a couple of other tools that I can show you, or gadgets that I have on my other bench.
Okay.
Oh, what I should also say is that the riveting system, you can, because a lot of the times it's really, I find it really difficult to get just the right drill bit that I need for my tubing. So you can actually buy the gadget that just drills the hole, and they come in loads of different sizes and shapes. So that makes it, because it's really important when you're doing rivets and eyelets that the tube or the wire goes through the hole as tightly as you can, so that you get a really neat fit to your rivet or eyelet. So like I think this one here, I've written on here 1.6, 2.4. So they're both the measurements for these two here. I think I've got also here a 3 mil and a 4 mil, so making quite a large hole, but you know, then I can make a really neat, perfect hole for, well, not just for riveting, I guess, but you could use it for many other things, but mostly in my jewelry making, it's if I'm doing rivets or eyelets or anything like that, because I do also make some rivets and eyelets from scratch, not always using the gadget. The gadget's an easy way to go. So I've got a couple more things here to show you, and then I'm almost done, I think. I have just recently started to move into doing, playing with more stone setting, just simple stones. I'm not doing anything that's faceted or with claws or anything like that. Just have been able to get my hands on some really lovely stones. And I was struggling with some of the tools that I do or did have for stone setting, leaving loads of tool marks, and I was just getting super frustrated. So I started doing some research to try and find something else out there. Came across these acrylic pieces, and they have been a godsend for me, making my setting a lot neater. They're a great length for my hand as well. Like I struggle a lot with getting the right fit for my hand, and the company makes these. You can buy like a whole set, and they come, you know, like that's a real big daddy one in comparison to that one. And they also come in lots of different shapes and sizes. So one with a little point on it. This is just a rectangular one. And both of those come in different lengths as well. And they've been really fun and have taken a lot of the frustration out of my stone setting. My probably favourite one to use is this one, because I can push in from the sides, I can push in from the top, and it is really reducing the marks that I'm leaving on the metal. Yeah, so I just thought that I'd mention those. And they're just made from acrylic. So, yeah, really cool little tools. I make a lot of earrings, and I wanted to make all of the components, or as many components as I possibly could, within my pieces of jewelry, so that when somebody was buying something from me, I knew exactly what was in the product. I could very confidently say that, yes, my earring wires are made from sterling silver, and yes, I do make them myself. And it becomes also, you know, a way to be more affordability. If I keep having to buy all these components, it does change the price of your pieces. And I like to make everything myself if I can. Not always I can, but I try. So another really fantastic little guy that I got, because I do sell a lot of earrings, is this earring wire jig. And I think that's exactly what it's called, earring wire jig. It has any other fancy name at all. And I use this one so much that I do wear these out, and so I buy them quite regularly. But I make a lot of earring wires before I get to the point that I've worn it out. It's nothing super fancy as far as the shape goes, and I know lots of people are going to say, well, I could just do that using my mandrel. I can just, you know, I really struggled to get both my earring wires to look the same, and sometimes my perfectionist, if that's a word, becomes a bit overpowering, and if they're not the same, it gets me a bit stressed out. So this thing means that I'm going to have all my earring wires the same. It's probably going to be really tricky to see, but it is just a simple little earring wire. There's nothing really terribly fancy to it. It's got the little kick at the back to just help keep everything in place. You can, you know, obviously push the wire in closer if you need. You can manipulate them a little bit. You open this piece out to pop your earring on. So I thought I'd just quickly show you how to use this tool, because I know this is another one of these tools that has been a real godsend for me. And what I do like about the tool is that it's got everything that you need to make sure that you're not going to make too many mistakes. So there's a little slot right there, and that's the exact length that you need to cut the wire. So you want to use, I'm showing 20 gauge or it's 0.8 millimeters in thickness wire. And I just buy a big length of it, usually about 5 meters at a time usually, and that makes a lot of earring wires. You just pop the wire. I've just got it resting on a little bit of rubber so it doesn't sort of slide around. So just pop the wire into the slot that's on the side there, and I'm using flush cutting pliers to try and help keep the end, when I cut it, a little flush. Hold the plier right up against the edge of the little jig gadget and snip it off. And now
are you able to adjust the camera at all so we can just see that?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
She's locked into place.
Okay, that's all right. Or maybe just move it in. If you went in front of your peg, we'd be able to see it.
Oh, in front of the peg, yeah. Here?
Yeah, up on the bench would be great. Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Mm.
Yeah, so I usually have the whole jig facing me like that. I pop the wire in there, snip it off using my flush cutters, and now I've got the exact length that I need to make the earring wire. So the only other thing that you have to do before you make the earring wire is, even though I've used flush cutters, I use just that little soft part of my hand to feel if I've, you know, how rough it is. If I was to put that through the hole in my ear for my earring, it would be really quite rough. So using a cup burr, really tiny to see, you're not going to see, and you want to, again, I'm going to have people that might disagree with me here. I use, even though I'm using 0.8 millimeter, I use a 1 millimeter cup burr. You can use smaller if you like, but I've played around, and for me, I like to use the 1 millimeter. We're all different, and that's okay. Some things that I do may not work for other people and vice versa, but I can only sort of show and suggest the things that I do. So I've got my little cup burr into the flex shaft, and I'm just going to round the end of that wire. So the reason I like to use a cup burr that's just a little bit bigger is that I kind of gives me a little bit more room to move it all around. And so then again, often I will come back and just test again on that little soft part of my hand, and I can tell now that that's got really smooth, it's lovely and round. That's far more pleasant than even using the flush cutting pliers. And I use the flush cutting pliers because there might be somebody out there saying, well, why aren't you just using a normal pair of pliers? They pinch the wire and it's more work with the cut burr. The flush cutting pliers have made it just that, taken a little bit more work out of the using the cut burr on the wire. A little whiz around, make it nice and round on the end. Yeah, feels good. So now, can you see that there? If that's a good.
Yep, no problem.
So all I've done is taken a little plastic wheel off the top. This all comes apart. There's this a little piece there that comes out. That just all stays in there. So the little piece of wire that I've just cut, I'm going to place, there's a little, I'll try and hold it up so you can see. There's a little slit just there and it just rests in there.
Yep. And
pop the plastic bit on top has a little lug right there and there's a spot that it goes. The metal's now between the lug and another little lug. And so I just hold it down, turn the perspex bit on the top around. That's not a very good example. Let me try this one. I need to hold the metal down before I do that. Oops. Hold the metal here with my finger. Turn. Gone one way. Now I'm going to go back the other way. I've got my hand here. I'm holding it quite firmly. Just turn that around. Take it off the jig. And then I've made a little earring wire. So usually
that was
in front
quick.
of the T. What was that, sorry?
That was quick.
Yeah, it is super quick. Super quick, real easy. And I know that I said that means that all the earring wires are exactly the same. Sometimes I cut my wire in front of the TV while I'm watching TV over nighttime, and sometimes they end up a little longer than what they should do. So yeah, you can see there that's two there that are pretty much identical. So yes, sometimes I end up with the odd earring wire that has a longer tail on it. So at that point, I can make the decision, I'm going to leave it that way. I'm going to come back with my flush cutting pliers. I'm going to snip them off, round that end off again. Usually I'll leave it. But like I say, I might buy maybe 3 to 5 meters of the wire at once, and then I'll cut them all. Then I'll spend some time doing the ends. That's probably the most frustrating part, just rounding the ends. But once you kind of, get some music on, a podcast on, something, zip, 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 do the ends, get all the ends done, and then I can just sit there and you saw how quickly that was, just to turn it one way and turn it back, and you've got your earring wires made. And then I've got enough earring wires to keep me busy for quite some time. So if I do a big batch of them at a time rather than doing 1 or 2, saving time overall, I think. I think that's pretty much all the kind of little gadgets that I sort of had today. So I don't know if there is any other questions, or if there's something else that you want me to reach out quickly and show, or.
No, we'll wrap it up there, Penny, but really appreciate the journey through your workshop and exposing us to those little gadgets, jigs, templates, all really designed to save time and effort and give you a consistent result. So that's fantastic. I'm sure that's what everyone's trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, and thank you to Yasmin and Deborah and others who are online viewing our presentation today, and those in the future as well.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been a while since I've been in front of the camera for AJS, and I've missed it, so it's been good to be back. So hopefully there was some tips and tricks that I could pass on to other people. I'm definitely about trying to work, smarter and not so hard. So.
Indeed. And Linda said thank you, so as did Deborah. So
great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Penny. We look forward to seeing you again real soon.
Yeah, thanks so much.